Hello and welcome everyone again into another video. Today's video, as you guys can see, we have a tier list and I will be ranking all the mythicals in Rage Shadow Legend in the year of 2024. Today's, I think, the second day of 2025, but you know, like until now, these are the mythicals that we do have. I'm not gonna talk about the mythical that we will get from winning Chimera because technically nobody has him, and it's gonna be like 3 or 4 months more until anyone get him. So the criteria, I mean, if you know watch my content, I mainly post about arena and other stuff, but mainly live arena because it's just the easiest content to make around if you don't want to wail and spend too much money. Yes, you kind of need to spend money to play live arena, but you can get away by having a good gear in live arena. And like for other stuff, like I don't have access to the test server, so you're not gonna see me posting about any champion that I don't have. So usually when I post about champion, that's because mainly I just pulled them, you know. So we have S tier, A plus, A tier, B tier, C tier. I feel like this is not accurate as I need another tier list here. So how do I make another change color background, presentation, reset? So the criteria here won't be just arena. And as an example, okay, I just added another tier, which is S, and we have S tier. So S tier, okay, S tier is a champion that's good everywhere, a champion that you will always be happy to pull. Okay, SS tier is basically going to be one champion, and that's going to be the best champion in the game. A plus is a champion that has everything you want, but just doesn't quite do what you want them to do the best. As an example, I will give you an example. I'd like A plus and above is a champion everyone is happy to pull. A is what it starts to become like, okay, I pulled the mythical, but it's debatable to pull. B is the mythical you're like, do I need to build this mythical? C is the mythical that you hate to pull. So something like disclaimer here is that any mythical is technically better than a legendary in the game. But we have 2-3 mythicals that are as good as a combination of two fusion legendaries. So that's, you know, like a fusion is always a debatable champion to go for or not. So some mythicals are just a combination of two fusion champions. So it might not be good to pull. It might be like twice the disappointment when you pull. So we're talking about S, okay? You know what? I'm actually just gonna start from the beginning till the end. So I'm not gonna, you know, like, okay, this is S plus, this is SS. So Aidus. Aidus used to be a C plus champion. It was by far the worst champion in the game, the worst mythical in the game. And when I tested him out, when I pulled him, he was worse than a Gnut. He was doing less damage than Gnut and Mishinaki. And those are like legendaries. So why would I build a mythical that does less damage than legendaries? And some people are like, okay, he has a great CC on his on his second form. I'm like, yes, but CC is not a thing that you use in arena, right? And he is supposed to be a dedicated champion for Hydra, even though he's not the best champion on Hydra. So he got a couple buffs, and now I would rank him as a B tier champion. He's not the worst. He is definitely one of the best champions in Hydra, but he is not the best champion in Hydra. That's the thing. There are like legendaries that can do the job better than him. As an example, Marius is a legendary, and he's better DPS than Aidus. But you could argue that Aidus does some stuff better. After the buff, he does 5 times the damage that he used to. Like as an example, I used to do like 30 to 40 million damage in Nightmare in a key. Now he does around 150 to 200 in Nightmare if you have him well built. So Aidus is the B tier champion. So again, B is not a bad mythical. It's a mythical that you will debate building. Our base. So when they first released all the mythicals, our base was the best one during that time because every other mythical was just average, and it was a good. I would say it was a good choice by Plarium that making all the mythicals when they first released the mythicals to be about average. Except Arbase, where Arbase was actually the best mythical that time. That's because her first form is just a straight better Arbiter, and her second form is like the only champion in the game that has a stone skin buff, and this buff can be extended if you have the mastery that extend the buff duration. And she's technically a beast. She is the best turn meter booster in the game. You could say that with Arbiter, but she has one more buff than Arbiter. Arbiter increase attack and boost. She increase attack, boost, and increase accuracy. She has a strip on her A2, and she has a lockout on her A1. That's on the first form, and she has a good speed aura. So she is definitely an S tier champion that probably was the best support for a while, even though on her first. So think of it this way: she is very decent on both forms. That her first form is one of the best go first teams, and her second form goes into one of the best go second teams, because her second form is just, she's gonna not provoke. She's gonna taunt, and you have to attack her while she has a stone skin, and every time you attack, she will decrease your speed, while in first form, every time you attack someone, she's gonna do the petrification. So she has so many unique buffs and debuffs, and she is in one of the best Chimera teams because she just has everything. She has HP burn, she has decrease the speed, she has turn meter fill, she has lockout on A1, she has a strip, right? So that will make her S a champion. I would put her in SS champion, but there is, as we said, there is only one SS champion, and we will talk about that later. Now, Froli. I would say Froli is a C champion. He was the mythical that people would rage when they pull. But then Froli get a buff. And I hate to say it, but after the buff, I still don't see Froli in live arena. I mean, I am not very high in live arena. I think I'm about 5,600 to 5,700. And don't see this champion. Even when they pick him, I'm like, thank God they picked this mythical. Because I was like, okay, this is where like they pick, because first pick is always Marius, Galathier, Armanz. And then second pick, when they start picking the second tier mythicals, right? And when they pick Froli, I'm like, okay, thank God they have Froli. He does smack, but the problem with his smack is that you have to have him a +4 so he can smack well enough. And at that point, let's be honest. Every empowered champion should hit hard at that point. So I'm gonna keep him C tier, even though he get a buff. Okay, but I still don't see him anywhere. Like Aidus is B because he is good in Hydra, he's good in Chimera, he's good in Clan Boss, he's insane in Centranos. Okay, now I feel like Aidus should be A, to be honest. I feel like Aidus should be A now. But yeah, Froli is still a not the greatest, but something to mention. If you have him 6-star awakened, he is much stronger. He's not going to be C, he's going to be B tier. Now, Geralt. So, when they first released Mythicals, Geralt was the most scary mythical among all, because she just does hit insanely hard on her second form. Not just that, her first form is HP champion, so you're not gonna kill her. And that time, like, Stone Skin wasn't very popular. Like, not everyone had enough accessories for Stone Skin to build them in Stone Skin and Savage, right? So her being HP champion was good enough for her to not die in the first turn. She can survive to switch to the second form. Both are new. I think both are new because I think the first form is ally protection. But when she switched to the second form, she has the combination of Ronda's passive and Leori's passive, where like every time she gets lower on health, she hits much harder, and every time someone attacks, she has the chance to join that attack. So that was a scary. When they first released her, I would pick Rotos against her because Rotos was one of very few champions that could deal with her. But later, now everyone has a stone skin, everyone has more ways to defend their champions against something like Geralt. She was so scary back then, also because of the combination between her and Nekret, where like she would switch form and she would be protected by Nekret, and then when Nekret does the ally attack and she procs on her A1, because her A1 has the chance to repeat the attack, she would just wipe an entire team with her A1 But now she cannot do that because Necret is kind of scary to pick, because you don't want to be the person who picks Necret and then get a Nazis, and then you have to ban the Nazis. But you can't afford banning Nazis because there are much scarier champions, like the OP support, like Armanz, like Galathier. Because you don't want to be the person who banned the Nuker and then lose to Armanz. So she was an S tier Nuker, but right now I think she's an A plus Nuker. And part of that, why she's A plus, she is one of the best Hydra damage dealers as well. Like, I've seen so many teams where like people were using her with 6-star crushing rant and she would smack Hydra. But the problem now with Hydra is that because there is always the 3 heads that you can deal damage to, so damage dealers in Hydra are like kind of getting limited, and you can't just always rely on AoE damage. So you could say that she's an S tier damage dealer, but she is not a versatile champion. Yes, she can be used in as many content as you want, but you know, she's not the champion that does everything well to be an S tier. Now, speaking of an S tier, next champion we have Lazarius, and this is kind of like a controversial thing to say, but I'll put Lazarius as an S, not SS, because there is only one SS tier champion. As I said, I'm just gonna put one SS tier champion, and Lazarius could be the champion that be SS tier F. He ignores the stone skin. But if he ignores the stone skin, that would be the most overpowered champion in the entire game. Because this champion is an insane support on his first form, and an insane nuker on his second form. As an example, like his first form, he boost, he put increased attack, he revive, he put strengthen. He strip, he put block debuffs as well. And he revives on as a passive. You don't even have to click. Even when he's stunned, he can revive. That's just insane, right? And his second form, he's the most insane damage dealer, where like he buffed himself, put increased attack, so he does not need a supported champion to make him do damage. Like, as an example, for Gale, she needs something like Necret, she needs something like an ally attacker, she needs something to protect her, like Freya, like UDK, stuff like that, to those champions that protect the nuker. Well, he doesn't need that, because you're gonna build him in a stone skin, and as long as that stone skin does not get stripped, once he gets the turn, he can switch form and then nuke. And the most ridiculous thing about him, if he kills anyone, he's gonna lock out the entire team, and that lockout can't be resisted, which is just insane. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't need accuracy, because he has so good of a kit that he should be punished for that, not get rewarded for that. And that's why Lazarius is an S tier nuker. You could argue that he is the best nuker in the entire game. There is an argument about that, but there are some some mythicals that they've introduced to us recently that we can't just say that Lazarius is the best nuker. Now, moving into the next champion. So, Mikage. I'm actually going to put Mikage as an A tier. As I said, an A tier champion is a champion when you pull, you are happy to pull, but you aren't happy that you have another one. So because Mikage is a fusion, you already have a way to pull one. So if you pull a second one, you're not going to be happy. You would rather pull something like Arbiter or Lazarius, right? So because she's a fusion, that's why she's not A+, because people just don't feel the need where they need to chase something, to dream about something. Like you will never find someone's like, I wish I pull a Mikage, because they already have Mikage. So they never feel the need to pull a Mikage, and that's why she's A, not A+, because you will never hear anyone say like, I wish I pull Mikage, I wish I pulled Razan, right? Those are just fusion, because you're just gonna, you have a way to pull those. Yes, you might not be lucky to pull them, but eventually they are much easier to pull than other mythicals. So Mikage is such an insane support. She has the entire kit except one thing, which is she does not revive. She has an ally attack. She has a very, probably the best kit, the best A1 in the game, with like every time she A1, she a champion from the same faction can use their A1 with, and that's where we see like such crazy combos like Mikage with Toshiro, Mikage with Yasu, Mikage with Ninja, Mikage with the epic champion that has an AU, the epic void champion from the Shadowkin faction. So I would say that she's an A+, but she is, just because she's a fusion, so those, like fusion champions always have that treatment where people just don't feel the need to pull them, and because of that they just don't give them what they deserve. If she has a revive, I would say she is an S tier champion, but because she doesn't have a revive, she's not S. But why would you put our base as an S, even though she doesn't have a revive? She has a form of reviving, which is revive on death. Also, she has a taunt, which can technically direct the damage away from the Nukers or the Squishy champions, so that technically is as good in a way as a revive. Now here is the thing. The next champion, Mezumel. So the problem with Mezumel is that she has the same problem as Geralt, where she is a green affinity, and green affinity champions are always have one downside of their kit, which is being green affinity, because you're weak to the best affinity in the game, which is the blue affinity. Blue affinity, magic affinity is just the best affinity in the entire game. That's because we have so many good champions from that affinity. We have Lazarius, we have Brotos, what else? Lazarius and Rotos, pretty much that's it. But those champions are just so freaking good. You have, as an example, you have Toshiro, you have the champion that's right there, you have Sigfred, right? Nice. You just have so many good blue champions that will make a green affinity bad, because those green affinity champions will just have a high chance of weak hitting into those, which the reason why you can't afford, like, you will never see someone just first picking a Mezumel just because literally she's a green affinity. If she's red affinity or blue, you would see lots of people picking this champion. So because she's green, I want to put her an A, but I've lost to Mezumel so many times that I think she's an A+. So I would say that I feel like I'm a bit biased, because in live arena, people who pick Mezumel are the people who have a plus for fully awakening Mezumel. So every time I see that, I'm just very scared. So in my brain right now, every time I see a Mezumel, it's always a +4 Mezumel fully awakened, and she does have the block revive, and that block revive make her slightly better than Geralt. And she is a single target hitter. I have seen Mezumels one-shotting a Harima, which is the champion that probably nobody can one-shot in the entire game. And just for that reason, she's an A+. If she is something that's not green affinity, she's an easy S tier, because like Lazarius doesn't block revive. She does block revive. Lazarius does not ignore stone skin. She does ignore stone skin, right? So that's a reason why she is not S+, but I feel like I can't give you a good judgment about Mezumel, but just for one simple reason, is that all the Mezumels I've ever faced are Mezumels with +4, fully awakened, and fully empowered. So that's the main thing. And part of Geralt, why she is on the same tier list as Mezumel, is that because Geralt is just so freaking good in Hydra as well, while Mezumel is not used in Hydra. Now, moving into the next champion, Crixa. Some people might say Crixa is still the best mythical and put her as an SS+. And there is a content creator that always say Crixa is so bad, Crixa is bad. I think you guys know who I'm talking about. Their name is Biohack, and I feel like he's just so biased with his judgment, because Crixa again has one downside of her kit, which is being green affinity, but sometimes the champion is green affinity for one simple reason, is that because if they are any affinity that's not green, they will break the game. And Crixa is one of those. As an example, Duchess. Imagine if Duchess, when Duchess was first released, not now. Now Duchess is fine. It's still one of the best support in the game. Now Duchess is fine. Imagine if Duchess was a red affinity champion. She would be 10 times scarier. And that same thing goes to Crixa, and that's why I'm gonna say Crixa is an S tier champion. And for two reasons. She's green affinity, she doesn't have revive, but she has everything. If I pull a Crixa, I would be so happy. If I pull a second Crixa, I would be so happy. If I pull a third one, I would be so happy. I would be happy when I pull 5 of her. Because she does her job the best in the game. There is no other champion that can do what Crixa does. She resets, she cleanse, she lock out. What else she does? She strip. Like, everything you want a support champion to do, she can do. She doesn't revive, but she's not a reviver. She's a lockout and anti-lockout. She's a reset champion. And just because you need to build her in high resistance, that's just good enough. You just build her in high resistance, and if they lock out your team, you can just switch form and then reset your entire team. Some people said the downside of her kit is that her second form should be her first, and her first should be her second, but I feel like that would just make her like insanely strong because of that. Because usually you want the better, like when the champion is so overpowered, you wish the better one is to be the first one, so you can lock out that form, and then when you lock out, they have a chance, you know, to have another champion. That's like the idea of mythicals. But like if you are locked out, you have a chance to switch form and not being locked out. And some champions that just have the insane kit that you wish that the form that you can lock out is the first one. And Crixa is one of those. She is the best S-tier champion, and there is only one person that hates this champion, and I feel like that's because for them, weak hitting is usually losing a game because their teams just go first, and Crixa and go second team is even 10 times better. So she's good in go first, she's insane in go second, she's good in any form, in any dungeon, in any Hydra team. You can use her always as a strip champion, you can always use her as a lockout or as an anti-lockout. In Centranos, she's insane. There is no place where you can't use Crixa. And now moving into probably the worst champion in the game, Sigfred. So Sigfred has the hardest hitting nuking ability in the entire game. His A3 with like the surplus damage can also crit, with like you would see an ability in arena that does hit for 2 million sometimes. You would see an ability in arena that hit for like 1 million damage, even though your champions would have like 100k HP. And that's because his A3 is just so stupid, so insanely strong, that it can just wipe an entire team without increased attack. So you can imagine the damage with increased attack. That's not it. If you try to kill everyone in the team, Sigfred has a passive where it will put block damage on him, so he does not need a form of support because he can support himself. He's a very independent nuker. But like, you don't even need to build him in Stone Skin. Like Lazarius, you do need to build him in Stone Skin. Well, like Sigfred, you don't need to build him in Stone Skin because he has a form of protection for himself. If you try to one-shot him, he will simply put block damage on himself and then fully boost his turn meter, get the next turn, and wipe your entire team. That's not just it. If you try to kill his team before him, he's gonna revive everyone and put block debuff on them. His main problem is that you don't control when you switch form, because he does switch his form based on his passive, which is like a major issue for him. But I'm glad that you can't switch his form, because he's just insane as a support. He's also insane as a nuker, and he is an easy S tier. I would say he's even better than Lazarius, but he's a one-dimensional champion that, I mean, I've seen people using him in Hydra, where like you would use his A3 on a decapitated head and get like 20 to 30 million damage. So that's an argument about using him in Hydra. I've seen him in Arena with increased attack, breaking Stone Skin, killing the champion and the rest of the team. There is an awakening that they've released recently, where like it does 60% more damage against the Stone Skin. If you have that awakening fully 6-star on Sigfred, he can kill any champion with Stone Skin. That's how insane he is. So we will try to rearrange those after we finish, because I feel like, you know, this is not the correct order. Now, moving into the next one. This is probably going to be the most controversial one, and I have this champion fully awakening 6-star with a crushing rend, and I would say that Toshiro is an A tier champion. I might get roasted for this, but I own the champion. I've used the champion in Arena. I've used this champion everywhere. And the main problem why he's not S tier is that he doesn't have a way to get around the Stone Skin. As an example, Lazarius can strip the Stone Skin on his first form. Geralt does so much damage that she can break the stone skin. But Toshiro, to do damage, he has to land decreased defense. And for him to do damage, he needs to land also leech. And you don't want to land debuffs in arena. That's number one. Two, the current meta in live arena or in classic arena is a stone skin plus something else. Stone skin speed for sport and stone skin savage, or like whatever form of savage you use, lethal, blah blah blah, are the meta, which where Toshiro can't do anything. His second form is just so bad. His second form is just whatever, you know, but his first form is just so insane in Hydra. And again, as I said, A tier, the difference between A and A plus is that with A plus, you are happy to pull more than one. With A, you're so happy to pull one, but you don't want to pull a second one. And Toshiro is that champion. You want to have one, but you don't want to pull more than one because it's just so expensive to get a mythical in the game, to the point where like, to the point where like you want to take a break from spending after that, because like, okay, I pulled Toshiro, it's going to be 6 months to a year to pull another mythical, right? So that's why he's an A tier. So please don't roast me on this, because I own the champion. I have the champion in such a crazy good gear that I've tested his full potential. Now it's kind of like people be like, how is this B, how is this A? Again, this doesn't mean that this is bad. This is a champion where like you will debate building. This is a champion will insta build the first one, but you won't be happy to pull a second one. Now Nelle. So Nelle is so awkward of a champion that it just has so annoying of a kit. But Nelle, it feels like Nelle is the champion you want to pull specifically for Chimera. Why for Chimera? Because in Chimera there are some relics like land poison, land decreased defense, land weaken. She has all of these. She has poison, decreased defense, she has weaken, she has multi-hitter, she has an like a built-in kit where like she will ramp up her stats. So in the first form, she's a decreased defense, poison activated champion. And when she transfers to the second form, for every debuff she lands, she's gonna do much more damage. I think she gained 5% attack and HP and defense and accuracy and resistance for every time she lands a buff, and she does land lots of buffs. So that will give her like insane amount of stats, similar to Toshiro. Except that she also does hit hard after that, but because she has a very weird kit where like you have to build her as a support on the first form, she's not going to be ideal damage dealer on the second form. And I played against one in live arena where like I didn't realize something, that when Nelle kill a champion, she gets another turn as a passive, so every ability can get an extra turn. So Nelle would be an A tier champion that you are so happy to pull the first one, but you wouldn't be happy to pull the second one. I would say she's as good as Toshiro, but she's the opposite of Toshiro, where like Toshiro is so good as a damage dealer on the first form and so bad on the second form, while like she's the opposite. She doesn't do that much damage on the first form, but that helps her out to do more damage on her second form. So on the long fights, she's going to have the ability to one-shot everything. Now, moving into the champion that I hate the most. If you guys watch my live arena video, you would know how much I rage whenever I play into this champion, and I'm talking about Nice. Nice is probably, I say, he's Sigfred on crack. So if you give Sigfred crack, he will be Nice. And Nice is just so freaking good of a champion that he has everything that Sigfred wished to have. You know, Nice can switch form. You know, like Sigfred can switch form as a passive. Nice does that, but Nice can also switch form. And Nice, whenever this champion's like Krotos and Sigfred combined, because Nice is a champion that can steal HP. And his damage is HP and attack, and he scales better on HP. So he's tanky by default because he's an HP nuker. And that's not the end of it. When he switch form, his A3 is a protected block damage. So if you don't have a way to deal with block damage, you're not going to be able to kill him. Not just that, he also revive. I feel like the worst thing that Plarium will actually regret is giving us nukers that can revive. We have Nice, we have Odin now, and there is Lazarius. Those are nukers that revive, and they are by far the worst thing that we got. I know people complain about Polymorph, but actually Polymorph sometimes can be on your side. But when you play against nukers that revive, that's just so unfair. Why would you make a nuker a champion that revives? Because the entire thing about the team is that you need a support, you need a reviver, you need a healer, you need a cleanser. You need those, right? Whenever you go into a fight, and a nuker. But when you give a nuker the capability of revive, it's just going to make building a team so easy that this champion will just be so unfair. And again, I just hate this champion so much. Calamitus, or whatever his name is, the problem with this champion is that he's like Ramantu. That's not a void affinity. And if this was a fusion mythical, I would be like, okay, it's a fusion mythical, nobody's worried about. But this champion is by far the worst in the game. There is no specific content where like Calamitus is so good and he can do so much shield, okay? Which makes him the worst champion right now, the worst mythical champion in the entire game. And I don't want to talk about him because I feel like there is nothing that this champion can do better than anything else. Like as an example, Aidus is not the best mythical, is not the best champion, but he can decrease defense, HP burn, and buff his attack because he has increased attack, right? So you could argue that he's better than Mishinaki the Legendary, right? Because he buffed himself. But like Calamitus doesn't do anything better than champions that we already have, such as Ramantu. So, moving on. I don't want to talk about him too much. Now, the next one. Carnage. When they first released Carnage, I feel like people weren't paying attention to Carnage the most because he was just, oh my god, they made an HP nuker, that they made an HP bomb champion that's not gonna hit hard. And they are correct, because usually attack bomb champions do lots of damage because you can increase their attack, but for HP champions there is no increased HP. I feel like that's such a bad thing to do, because the only way that they can make HP champions good is just by giving them an insane kit, which is a very bad idea. Like you can make, like imagine as an example that the way to do something equivalent of increased HP is HP nukers will do more damage if they have a shield, because technically shield is extra HP, right? Instead of just making HP nukers do so much damage like Nazis and Taras by giving them an insane kit. Because what's the difference between Taras, Nazis, and other HP nukers? They just have insane kit, right? Because buff can't make the differences. As an example, there are so many attack nukers that could be so good when they have increased attack and would do enough damage to KO. But with HP nukers, they either have a good kit or a bad kit. There's no difference, because Plarium made a problem by not giving us a buff to buff HP nukers. And it's right there, shield. Shield is technically extra HP. So if you give an HP nuker shield, you're technically increasing their HP and their damage should be increased, right? Why do I have this champion twice? Now moving into Carnage. So the thing about Carnage is that it's also a free mythical, but I've used Carnage. There was a time, I think in the past 8 months, where like Carnage was my most used nuker in the game, because he is so versatile and you could literally use him everywhere. He has a strip. It's a target, single target strip. He has disabled passive, this block active skill, and his A1 is so freaking good that it's an A1 that every time you hit him or hit allies, he's gonna counter attack and has a chance to strip your buffs. It's technically can get him polymorph, but you know, you can get polymorphed in PvE, so that's a way to use him. I've used him in Hydra and he does very respectable damage on his second form. But the thing is, he's so stats hungry because he doesn't just need stat attack speed and crit rate, crit damage. No, he also needs high accuracy. I think in the previous video I played into a Carnage where he literally soloed my entire team just from his A1. And I was so jealous of that person because I felt like I built my Carnage very well, and that person convinced me that the best way to do it is actually more accuracy. I know like Cruzen made a video about him and said just go as much accuracy as possible, but my excuse was always if I have Cruzen's gear, I would build him higher accuracy, but because I don't have Cruzen's gear, I'm just gonna build him with attack and speed and crit rate, crit damage. So Carnage is so useful in any sort of the game, in any part of the game, but sometimes that can be punishable. If you can do everything well, that means you can't do a specific content better than the others. That's how I feel. Like, think of it this way. Oh, what's the music one? As an example, he's good in Hydra. He's not the best. He's very good in Chimera because of that block active skill on the Viper form, but he's not the best. He's good in arena. He's not the best. He has the best speed aura in arena, and that's something good about him. So I feel like he's an A. He's top B. He's bottom A. For one simple reason, that because he's an accessible champion that eventually you will pull, so you will never need the urge to pull him. You will never have that part of your heart like, I wish to pull Carnage soon, you know? Because you're not gonna pull him. It's just a champion you will eventually pull. Now, moving into the next champion, I want to talk about Gallus. I would say Gallus is an A-tier champion, and he is as good as Aidus, except that he is a defense nuker champion. And defense nuker champions are always better than attack nuking champions because they cannot get one-shotted. And I would say that Gallus should be in the same category as Geralt, but Geralt is better because of her passive. Like Gallus is, I think Gallus is the opposite of is the form of Toshiro that's a defense base, because like his problem in Hydra is that, you know, like whenever he kills something under decreased defense, he's gonna reset the ability, but you can't do it in Hydra because you technically don't kill any of the heads. His A1 on his first form is enemy max HP when he counterattacks, so he has some funny in his kit. Like, as I said, he's kind of the defense form of Toshiro, except that Toshiro does much more damage. That's because Toshiro has another damage boosting, like, because he does more damage, he gains so much stats from his A2, but he also amplifies his damage if they are under leech, and they didn't give that to Gallus, so that's why Gallus is a slightly worse version of Toshiro, and Toshiro is a better version of him. And Toshiro is technically attack and HP, while like this guy is defense. And he does buff himself. He has so much stuff to bring to the table, like he revive on death, he increase defense. But I don't like that usually. Like, I like champions that can buff themselves as a nuker, but when you buff the entire team, that means you're gonna do less damage. Usually that's how it works. So I would say Gallus is an A-tier champion. I am happy to pull Gallus, but I would be sad to pull a second one. Now, Ashnar. I would say Ashnar is the second worst mythical right now in the game. He is the equivalent of having two fusion champions in one champion. Like, he's an HP burn champion. I think Plarium was trying to make him sort of a Gismag, except that he wasn't as good as Gismag, and we will talk about this. And Gismag goes straight to S tier, probably the best S tier in the game, because this champion is the easiest champion to build in the entire game. You only need to crit cap him, and if you have him crit capped, he's just gonna place HP burn at every round, and he has a chance to place HP burn every time he gets a turn. And then when he gets a turn, he gets like 4 turns back to back, which is just insane and stupid. Like, why he gets so many turns back to back? I think he buff himself and then get an extra turn and then switch form and get an extra turn, and then throw an ability and get an extra turn. So sometimes I've seen Gismag, I think, built in Relentless, where like my opponent kept getting turns after turn. They get a total of 7 turns back to back until they wiped my entire team. They had a very fast Gismag build, so you could tell they weren't doing that much damage, but they were just abusing the fact that Gismag gets so many guaranteed turns that with Relentless, you have a very high chance to keep going, you know? He's a supported champion, technically, because he doesn't do high damage, but he does so much damage on the long run if you have a broken awakening in the game called Incinerate. Incinerate, basically, if you have a 6-star awakened, it does 200% more damage. So your HP burn won't do 5%, it will do 15% of their health. And every time it ticks, it will drop your turn meter, and it's just so insane that you cannot deal with it without having a Marius on your team. And the best way to deal with Gismag is usually to cry, okay? You cry, or you have to have a very fast cleanse that will instantly remove the HP burn. That's how you deal with Gismag. If Gismag like go before you, you're just not gonna be able to win. I would say that Gismag is just insane of a champion. He's so freaking good also in Hydra, because he has decreased defense, he has Taunt. I mean, Taunt is no longer as good as it used to be. Like there was a time when Taunt would prevent Hydra from devouring your champions. It doesn't. It no longer does that. And he has decreased defense, HP burn. He extend that. He does decent damage. He protect the team. And for Chimera, they literally put one of the trials specifically for him, which is Pain Link, and he's the only champion that does that. So why would they do that? Like, that's just so bad. They just want everyone to keep going for Gismax. If you don't have Gismax, you have to eventually pull him, just so you can get more trials in Chimera. I would say he is an SS tier. As I said, there is only one SS tier champion, and it's one of those four. Okay? Spoilers alert, it's going to be Androc. Now, moving into Alaz. Alaz is... I think Alaz is the best defense nuking mythical in the game. Okay? Wait, isn't Gismag defense? No, never mind. I take that back. Gismag is still the best defense nuking. Okay? I forget that. I mean, Gismag's damage comes from HP burn and then activating that and just taking so many turns after. So I would say Alaz is an A+ champion. And he is the best defense nuker. If you consider Gismag as a support champion, then Alaz is the best defense nuker. So I would say Alaz is the second best after Mezumel. I mean, Mezumel is better. I would say Mezumel is higher rank for one simple reason, that Mezumel ignores the Stone Skin. He doesn't. But Alaz is just so freaking good of a champion that you would always be happy to pull one. You would always be happy to pull more than one, because you can just empower such a freaking insane of a champion. And the problem with Alaz is that his best form is his first form, and you would always want the mythical champion to be better on the second form and worse on the first form, just because if you get locked out, you have a chance to switch form and then do damage. So Alaz's second form is an HP burner champion that's good in Hydra, as an example. But his first form is the nuking form. So if the lockout champion goes before him, he's pretty much useless. I wouldn't say useless. Mythical champs are always useful, even if you lock them out, because they can just switch form. But he's not as useful on his second form. Yes, they gave him away with, like, he will get HP by the amount of defense he has, similar to Aidus. But that was such a weak ability that wasn't enough. Just make them the same and make them usually scale harder. So if I were to be in Palladium's place, I would just switch his forms. Second form to be the first and first to be the form, and then he would be easy S, but he would be the worst S, you know. But because of the way he is right now, I would say he's an A+. Now, Galathier is the SS champion. This champion has every freaking support ability in the entire game. Now, lockout, there is two forms of lockout: block active skill, or just increase the cooldown of the opponent's abilities. And block active skill used to be the worst version, but when mythicals came out, if you lock them out, they can simply switch form. But block active skill is the better version on against mythicals, because if you put block active skills on them, they cannot switch form. So when they first released Galathier, people were like, no, block active skill, this is just the weak version of lockout. And with overtime and people getting more mythical, they realized that block active skill is actually the better version against mythicals. Also, his second form, he also stripped. He also decreased resistance, so you have a chance to land debuff on stuff that you're not supposed usually to land debuffs. His second form is just insane. His first form is just Duchess on crack. You know, like, he cleanse. Duchess does not cleanse. He cleanse, he boosts the turn meter, and he block debuff, while Duchess just block debuff. And when he revives, he put a veil on everyone. His A1 AUE boost turn meter. On his second form, AUE decrease turn meter on everyone. And you cannot kill him. Also, he gains damage mitigation based off amount of resistance he has. As an example, if he has resistance of 500, he's going to take 25% less damage. Also, if you try to one-shot him, he is going to heal himself. Instead of you killing him, you're just going to give him a favor and heal him. He is just so freaking good, to the point where, like, I'm actually scared to see void mythicals. If this is a non-void mythical, how scary Void Mythicals is. I wanted to end the video with Galathier, and I forget that there is a champion like Androc, but I would say Androc is a C tier. Androc was the worst one, but now with Chimera, Androc is no longer the worst mythical because Androc is so good of a support in Chimera that he has everything you need to survive from Chimera. You have Strengthen, Increased Defense, Continuous Heal, Strip, Block buffs, turn meter boost for everyone every time someone do a critical hit. So Androc is the best support for Chimera. He has a niche use in Arena where but he requires you to land debuffs, and landing debuffs in Arena is not something you want to do. Now, I would believe that this is the ranking I would do. Wait, there is only one B tier champion? Okay, never mind. So for the people who are Froli believers, there is, I think, 2 B tier champions. Now, let's rate them. I would say that Gismax is the best. Crixa is the second, nice. I think I would do it this way. I think this is how I feel. So, for the SS, there is Galathier, S tier, Gismax, Crixa, nice, Calamitus, Lazarius. People might say that Lazarius is better than all of these, but the thing that all of these do, this doesn't do, is Stone Skin. I mean, Nice doesn't deal with the Stone Skin, but Nice can't be killed, right? He's just gonna switch form, so that's why he's better than Lazarius. But Lazarius overall is the best nuker in the game, outside the funky stuff like block damage and these stuff. Our base, the best meter booster and the most versatile mythical. I wanted to say that our base is slightly above Mikage, but again, because Mikage is a free champion that we get, so we're always biased about that. Now, as part of Nelle isn't used. I just don't see enough people using her. I've only seen her once, and I lost. So I don't think I've seen her otherwise. So maybe this is poor judgment about Nelle. Maybe this is not the greatest judgment, but I would say... No, I would say Carnage is the worst A, and better than the stuff in B. I would say that Froli might be better than Aidus, but I would say that Aidus is actually better. You can use Aidus in Arena as an anti-stone skin if you have Incinerate on him. But the thing is about Froli, what are you gonna do? And those are 3. If you pull either... Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Androc. Androc is the best one of those 3 because I know someone who's had a new account and they were able to pull Androc. And Androc were able to push them from doing nothing in Clan Boss into doing Nightmare, Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, Ultra Nightmare Hydra, Ultra Nightmare Chimera. So, because they had Androc, they would literally... That was the champion that, if they pulled, would make them do every content in the game. You could say that about Galathier, but Galathier is so OP early or late game, or end game, doesn't matter. But with Androc, it has to be your first mythical to pull for that to be a good pull. So I feel I covered everything in this. If you guys don't agree, please let me know in the comment section below. Would you guys agree with this rating, or you wouldn't agree? Do you guys think that was an accurate ranking, or you guys don't think so? And if there is an area that I did not cover well for some of these mythicals, please feel free to correct me in the comment section below. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for watching. I appreciate everyone, and I get lots of questions about playlist. I will leave the playlist also in the description below. So if you enjoy the content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. And yeah, don't forget to leave a like on the video, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.